Good morning and Jai Hind children. I welcome you all in today's live class of biology. Children, we are discussing the chapter Our Forest. And in previous class, I have discussed the book exercise, that is short answer type question and few of the long answer question. Alright? So, today now I'm going to discuss the rest of the long answer questions. And the question number two that we'll discuss today is what is a food chain and explain with an example. So children, here you have to define the food chain with the help of example. Alright. And the food chain is a simple representation of energy flow in nature. It shows the relationship between producer, consumer, and decomposer with the help of arrows showing who eat whom. All right, children? About the food chain. Yes, it is the simple representation of energy flow in nature. And this shows the relationship between producer, consumer and decomposers. And this relationship will shown with the help of arrow. Alright. And this arrow is used to show that who eats whom. And the example is, yes, the grasshopper feeds on leaves of a plant. So you can see that grasshopper feeds on leaves of plant and a frog eats grasshopper. Alright. And in turns, this frog is eaten by a snake. So the last link of this food chain is occupied by decomposers who feeds on dead plants and animals. Alright, so this example shows that the leaves of the plant eaten by grasshopper, grasshopper in turns eaten by frog and the frog eaten by the snakes. Get it? Or we can also say that the relationship between producer, consumer and yes, decomposers. So in this example, these three are the consumers, the grasshopper, frog, and snakes. Alright. Now come to the next. The question number three. And the question is explain the meaning of a food web. Children, here you have to explain the term food web. And remember that in chapter we have discussed about both food chain and food web with the help of example. So you can say that the food web, which is an interconnected network of food chains that forms a multitude of feeding connections among the different organisms of a biotic community is called a food web. Alright, and a food web shows how different animals are interconnected by different paths. Get it? So, this is the meaning of food web, that interconnection with network of food chains that forms a multitude of feeding connections among different organisms, a biotic community that is called a food web. Children, here you must have to know about the biotic community, which means, yes, community of all living organisms. So how these all living organisms connected to each other on the basis of their feeding habit. Get it? So when the number of food chains interconnected to each other on this basis of feeding habit is known as food web. Okay? And a food web shows how different animals are interconnected by different paths. So these all paths together forms the food web. Okay? Now come to the next question number 4. And the question is, explain how nature maintains a balance between living things. Okay, so here the question you have to write that you have to explain that the balance in nature, especially in living things. So children, you know very well that to kill and to be killed, to grow and to die and get decomposed is the law of nature. Is it? This is the law of nature. And with the help of this law, nature maintains the population of each species of animals in sufficient number. Get it? For example, yes, just take the example of a terrestrial food chain. So you will found there the plants are eaten by grasshopper, the grasshoppers eaten by frogs, and they eaten by, yes, snakes, and again the snakes are eaten by eagle. Great. So this, yes, this chain shows that how these different animals are connected to each other and their population, like the population of plants, the population of grasshoppers, the population of frogs, snakes, and eagles, they are maintained in the nature. Get it? Suppose there are no eagles in a community. So what will happen? In the absence of eagles, the population of snakes will increase, and this increased population of snake will eat more frogs, and because of it, gradually the population of frogs will decrease, and this decreased in the population of frog will lead to increase the population of grasshopper. Get it? Because the frogs are less, and that is why no one is there to eat the grasshoppers, and as a result the population of grasshopper will increase, and now grasshopper will eat more plants. Get it? And because of it, the decrease in the population of plants will disturb the entire ecological balance. That is why, yes, the population of these all animals are maintained by nature. The plants are eaten by grasshopper, and the grasshopper eaten by frogs, and the frogs eaten by snakes, and further the snakes are eaten by eagles. Alright, now come to the next question number 5. And the question is, when you conserve forests, you also conserve soil. Discuss. So children, here you have to, yes, explain both. The conservation of forest is the result of conservation of soil. So how we can say that? So children, remember that the forest prevents soil erosion and floods that we have discussed in the chapter. Is it? And hence they conserve soil. And in the absence of forest, yes, what will happen? The soil erosion occurs more rapidly. because exposing the lower hard and rocky layer, and as a result the soil loses humus and becomes less fertile. Get it? As the upper layer, which is more fertile, get eroded, so what will happen? Soil gets, yes, it loses the humus and gets become less fertile, and thus the fertile lands which act as a source of living for farmers, because farmers used to grow the crops on fertile land. Alright, and if such fertile lands, the fertile soil get eroded, so the field get converted to a desert, and this process is known as desertification of land. What this process is known as, children? Yes, it is known as desertification. Okay, so the desertification of the land is the result of soil erosion, and this soil erosion occurs because of, yes, because of deforestation. So that is why conservation of forest will also conserve the soil, and as a result the process of desertification will not occur. Okay, now come to the next question number 6. And the question is, what do you mean by planned harvesting of forest? And how does it help in conservation? So children, here you have to explain about planned harvesting of forest. What is it? And also you have to explain that how this planned harvesting help in conservation. So children, remember that the planned harvesting is one of the method of conservation of forest. Is it? And this plant harvesting of forest is a method employed by the government to conserve the forest. And under this method, what happened? Yes, all the trees of a forest are prevented from getting cut while converting it into an agricultural lands. So, the cutting of all the trees may lead to soil erosion and other natural problems. So, that is why this method of plant harvesting is adopted. Okay, and this plant harvesting of forest also maintains a balance between deforestation and afforestation. That is, yes, regeneration of new plants. Thus, it helps in conservation of forest. Alright, so you can say that the plant harvesting of forest also help in, yes, conservation of forest, because it includes afforestation and the regeneration of new plants. Okay, now come to the next at question number 7, and the question is, in what way are wildlife conservation, forest conservation and soil conservation related? Okay, you have to here explain that how the tree, this wildlife conservation, second one forest conservation, and the third one soil conservation. How these three are related to each other. So children, we can say that the wildlife conservation, forest conservation and soil conservation, these all three are interrelated. Yes, because it is by conserving the forest, wildlife and soil are automatically conserved. Is it? If we conserve the forest, So what will happen? The forest, the trees will provide shelter and food to the wildlife. So that is why the conservation of wildlife will occur. And because of the presence of the forest, the trees, the soil erosion will not occur, and as a result it will conserve the soil, is it? So we can say that the conserving forest will automatically conserve the soil and wildlife. And when we conserve the forest, we conserve soil by preventing soil erosion, and they also maintains the fertility of soil. And similarly, the trees in the forest, they provide shelter and safety to the animals, and they also provide food to wildlife. Okay, and thus the conservation of forest means conservation of wildlife. Is it? So we can say that conservation of wildlife, conservation of forest, and conservation of soil, they are related to each other. Okay? Now come to the next question number 8. And the question is, list 5 ways in which forests are useful to us. Children, here you have to write the 5 different ways in which forests are useful. Okay, so the forests are useful as in following 5 ways. And the first one is forest prevents soil erosion and floods. Get it? So this is one of the way that forest is useful because they prevent soil erosion and floods. Now the second way is they maintain the balance between carbon dioxide and oxygen levels in the atmosphere. They maintain, yes, the balance between carbon dioxide and oxygen. Is it? And so this is the second way by which forests are useful because they are responsible for maintaining the balance between carbon dioxide and oxygen levels in the atmosphere. Children, as you know that these are the two important gases that need to maintain, their levels need to maintain in the atmosphere. The oxygen, which is used up by all the living things for respiration. Okay, and the carbon dioxide, which are produced during the produced during the respiration and used up in photosynthesis process by the plants. So they both need to balance. They need to maintain, and this maintenance of the gases, carbon dioxide and oxygen, are occurred by the forest. Okay, now the third way is they reduce they reduce global warming, okay, by using carbon dioxide during photosynthesis. During, yes, photosynthesis. Alright, so this is the third way that, as you know, that during the photosynthesis process, plants uses the carbon dioxide to produce the food, to prepare the food. And by using carbon dioxide, the global warming gets reduces because carbon dioxide is one of the gas which is responsible for global warming, which is responsible for increasing the temperature. Alright, so you can see that the forests also useful to us because they use the carbon dioxide and reduces the global warming. Now the fourth one is the fourth way they maintain the climate. They maintain the climate of a place. And yes, cool the environment. Okay, by releasing water vapors in the air. Alright? So the forests also help to maintain the climate of a place and cool the environment by releasing water vapors in the air. Children, you must know that by the process of transpiration, plants, yes, release the water vapors. Okay, the excess water released in the form of water vapor in the air. And this water vapors help to cool the air, help to cool the environment. Get it? And if the air get cooled, it maintain the climate of that place. So this is also one of the way by which forests are useful to us to maintain the climate of a place and cool the environment. Alright? Now, the fifth way is they provide all basic needs. Okay? They provide all basic needs of a mankind. And it includes, yes, include food, clothing, and shelter. So this is the one of the way by which forests are useful because they provide us all the basic needs of mankind. It is food, clothing, and the shelter. Is it children? The different plant products which are used as a food, the clothing materials, the different fibers which we obtain from the plants like cotton, jute, etc. And also they provide the shelter. They provide us wood to make the, yes, houses and also the furniture. They provide the shelter for different animals, wild animals. Alright. So we can say that the forests are useful to us as they provide all the basic needs of the mankind, including food, clothing, and shelter. Okay. Now come to the next question. Question number 9. And the question is, Can large scale cutting down of forests have an effect on rainfall in the area? Give reason. So children, here you have to tell that if the large scale cutting down of forest will occur, that deforestation will occur, so it have an effect on rainfall in the area. If yes, give reason. So then we can say that yes, that the large scale cutting down of forest can have an effect on rainfall in the area because the large scale cutting down of forest, yes, will occur. So the trees who absorb water through their roots and release water vapors in the air through transpiration, what will happen? This will minimize. And these water vapors then condense to form clouds. And when water droplets, that is in the form of clouds, becomes big, they fall as rains. And when rain falls on the ground, the roots of the trees help water to seep down in the ground. And thus, by cutting down the forest, the entire process of water cycle would get affected, and which in turn would result in the reduction of rainfall. Get it? Because if plants will not be there, so the transpiration will reduce, and reduced transpiration means less water vapor will form, will released by them, and less water vapors means yes, the formation of cloud will be less, and the less cloud formation means the rain will get affected, less rainfall will be there, and the less rainfall is result of the less seepage of water, and as a result the water table gets reduced. Okay, so we can say that the reduction of rainfall will occur if the deforestation or cutting down will happen, and the overall water cycle will also get affected. Right? So, children, these all are the long answer questions, and I hope that you understood these all answer. Is it? Now, after the long questions, now come to the next exercise, that is HOTS question. Children, for giving this answer, you have to first think the question and then you can give the answer. And the question number one is, what do you think will be the consequences if all forests on the earth disappear? So children, first think about it. If all the forests on the earth will disappear, so what will be the consequences there? Okay, so if all the forest on the earth disappear, it will lead to the following consequences. Like first one, yes, there will be an increase in earth's temperature. So this is one of the consequence, that the temperature of the earth will increase. Now the second consequence is the animals will not get food and shelter. This is the second one, as when all the forest will disappear, so animal will also not get food and shelter, and as a result, they will also, yes, get extinct. Okay. Now the third one. is soil will not hold water. And due to which, yes, it causes the flood. Get it? So this is the third consequence. If the forest disappear, so the soil will not hold water due to the absence of roots, and because of it, the flood will occur. Get it? Now, the next consequence is there will be no purification of water. The process of purification of air and water will also stop because plants help to purify the air and water as they, yes, absorb the pollutants, all the harmful substances from the air like carbon dioxide. And the next consequence is there will be no recycling of nutrients. Get it? Recycling of nutrients will also not occur due to the absence of forest. So these all consequences will occur if the forest disappears. Okay, children? Now come to the next question number 2. And the question is to conserve forests, we should ban cutting down of trees completely. Do you agree? Children, for conserving forest, the cutting down of trees completely banned. Do you agree? So we can say that cutting down of trees will not be completely banned. So you will not be agree because yes, the forest trees are cut for various desirable uses also. Is it? It is not necessary to ban the cutting down of trees completely. However, it should be done at a slow rate to allow the forest trees regenerate naturally. And also, more trees should be planted to maintain a balance of trees. So, what will happen? Because of this, the trees will maintain and also our requirements get fulfilled. Okay? Now come to the next question number 3. And the question is a forest has no waste. Why? So children, first think about the question that a forest has no waste. Okay, because the dead bodies are consumed and the remains are recycled. And when animals die in a forest, they are eaten up by scavengers and such as crows and vultures. And these scavengers feed on the dead bodies of animals, which in turn keep the forest clean. And moreover, the decomposers like bacteria and fungi, they also decompose dead organism and waste into humus, which contain nutrients for plants. Get it? So we can say that a forest has no waste. Alright? Now come to the next question number 4. And the question is suppose in a forest, the number of carnivores become more than the number of herbivores. So, what will be the consequences? So, children, first think about the question. If the number of carnivores become more than herbivores, okay. So the population of herbivores will decrease as carnivores feed on herbivores, and the decrease in the population of herbivores will further lead to an increase in the population of green plants, that is producers. And as herbivores feed on green plants, hence, if the population of any of the member in the food chain increases or decreases, it will affect the population of other members, and their number will either increase or decrease substantially. Alright, so we can say that yes, increasing or decreasing of any member of food chain will affect the other members of that food chain. Right. So, children, this one is all about the book exercise questions. And I hope that you understood these all answers. Okay? Thank you and have a nice day.